A story can come from anywhere, whether it's inspiration or hearing it being told in your own head. There are many stories to be told out there, but some of the greatest come from Disney, more specifically Pixar. But why are we so intrigued by their stories, and why do they stand out more than the rest? Granted, Pixar hasn't been around for that long, but what makes Pixar films so special? Today I wanted to take a deep dive into the secrets of Disney's storytelling. I myself have been studying their technique for going on 8 years, and it's what inspired me to become a storyteller. But enough rambling, let's go ahead and jump into it. The first thing that I learned about their writing style is the initial layout and what they call the Pixar story structure. This structure is to fulfill each part of a story, a beginning, middle, and end. A structure's goal is to serve as a roadmap for your writing, creating a series of suggested goalposts to help you both construct and analyze your story. Because various structures can work, no single structure is considered gospel. It would be laid out like this. They ask various questions in order to fulfill each part of a story. Once upon a time there was, every day, one day, because of that, until finally. The story does not have to use these exact words when telling the story, but it is a way to get your mind going into the next step for your story. Using this structure, an example of a paper layout would be, once upon a time there was a widowed fish named Marlin who was extremely protective of his only son, Nemo. Every day, Marlin warned Nemo of the ocean's dangers and implied him not to swim far away. One day, in an act of defiance, Nemo ignores his father's warnings and swims into the open water. Because of that, he is captured by a diver and ends up in the fish tank of a dentist in Sydney. Because of that, Marlin sets off on a journey to recover Nemo, enlisting the help of other sea creatures along the way. Until finally, Marlin and Nemo find each other, reunite, and learn that love depends on trust. There is also the challenge in just the overall plot. There are two main ways in which you can develop your idea. One is simply to explore your universe. If you're writing about a futuristic resort spaceship, wander around it with your mind's eye. What robots would it need? What utilities? What services would it offer? What would life like be on it? The spaceship in WALL-E is realistic because of the details Pixar came up with, the various robots that service the ship, the ways in which its denizens shop, eat, play, and socialize. They even created a very clear daily schedule for its captain. These details offer opportunities for set pieces, satire, and drama. The other way to develop an idea focuses on the plan for your plot and characters. If you decided that Marlin will find Nemo, you know the end of his destination. Part of Pixar's success is due to the studio's originality and unique inventions. Compare these stories to DreamWorks. The difference between DreamWorks and Pixar is the focus. They are essentially opposites. The DreamWorks team focuses more on comedy within their films, while Pixar is aimed at pulling on the heartstrings of their audience. And yes, they are inspired by small things, but the stories they create aren't pulled by another story. Pete Docter, an animator, producer, and director of the company, brought up a saying that most people who are studying storytelling would know, which is, write what you know. However, this doesn't mean only write about the town you live in now or friends. It means write about something creative, but put a part of you in it. A personal preference or attachment will always make any story come more alive.
Humans have been telling stories since we could speak, probably even before. We tell stories around the campfire. We write plays, we write novels, short stories, we make movies, we take photographs, tweet to each other. One of the things you hear all the time, this advice, is write what you know. What that actually means is, yeah, go ahead and write about monsters and explosions and car chases, but put something into it that talks about your own life, how you feel. My daughter, she was about 11, her name is Ellie, as a young kid, and she was getting older and more quiet and withdrawn, and I went through some really difficult times as a kid, at about that age. And so I was kind of keeping an eye on her going, oh, I know what she's going through. And it was really that inspiration of thinking about like what's going on inside your head that led to the formation of this story.
The sole purpose for Pixar was the difference between Disney. It was still Disney, yes, but it wasn't your typical Disney film with the princess and the prince and what they call the I Want song. This is why Toy Story was such a huge risk, because it was the complete opposite of what everyone knew back then. In 1995, when Toy Story was released, there was already 7 Disney princess movies people were already used to. Disney knew that this format of storytelling was working and was hesitant on giving this new style a chance. We actually got to hear why Pixar films are so impactful to people.
And I realized through all these years creating these films, which I didn't know in the very beginning were having such an effect on people, that the reason why our films were so great was not because of the animation necessarily, or because of the music or the voices, because other companies were doing that. The reason why people kept coming back to Pixar films and loving them was because of the story. The story was really meaningful. It was beyond just the plot, but there was heart in the story.
Another major factor that goes into storytelling is the believability of their characters, and not just personality, but the actual physical design. Take Woody and Buzz, for example. Both of them went through extensive changes before their final figure.
Hi, pal, what you doing? I'm Tempest from Mars. Yeah, what's his butt? Say, you weren't thinking of flying, were you? Well, you know Andy loves toys that can fly. Really? Well then, to infinity and beyond. You know, Andy loves toys that he can find.
And even though they were toys, they still had to be believable up to a certain point, like how they speak or move that is somewhat human-like, but is also still attached to their world. Take for example Lightning McQueen's character. We take a liking to him in the beginning of Cars as he charms us with his success and confidence. However, when we realize how self-centered he is, we quickly take a step back from his cocky demeanor, expecting him to change. This is what's known as empathy. The audience must empathize with the character, watching them want something and watching their journey to get to it. Walt Disney himself was passionate about his projects. From his first character design that started it all, Mickey Mouse, to his last work on The Jungle Book, he was passionate about everything he worked on, including characters, saying, quote, "Until a character becomes a personality, it cannot be believed. Without personality, the character may do funny or interesting things, but unless people are able to identify themselves with the character, its actions will seem unreal. And without personality, a story cannot ring true to the audience." End quote. This, I believe, Pixar continued to follow, making sure every character is fully believable no matter how animated they may be. When it comes to the research they have done, they go above and beyond. For Finding Dory, they stated, quote, "We focused a lot on our research on how light works in an aquarium compared with what it does in the open ocean. In the tanks, the light is clear and bright and relatively uniform. In the ocean, by comparison, it's flat and gray near the surface, and then it just explodes with color. They pay a close attention to these details, and even though we may not realize it, if it wasn't there, we would probably notice a sort of non-realness to it. Nonetheless, they have gone through an extensive amount of research for each and every one of these films."
We do that to kids.
Yeah, you want them to be happy. Please be happy. Be happy. What do I have to do to make you happy? Eat ice cream.
So when you explain that, like, okay, it doesn't work that way, and then the child psychiatrist say, okay, now you've got it right. And then it had the impact because not only the kids see that there are these different emotions and that it's okay, but it's also the message to the parents, like, oh, if they're feeling this way, I need to think about their issues and their emotions in a different way.
In order to really get culture under your skin and to feel comfortable speaking the language, so to speak, you just got to go down there.
The research trips are invaluable. There's something to be said for experiencing the culture and the people and the happy accidents that you find.
In doing the research for A Bug's Life, we wanted to show the audience a world that they were familiar with, of nature. But we wanted to take it and make them look at it from a bug's point of view. And a clover or a blade of grass became like a tall tree, and a fallen leaf sometimes was like a building in itself that you could walk on as a floor and a ceiling.
We went to several aquariums and we got a chance to see real octopuses. Octopuses? Plural of octopus, octopi.
I believe that is not correct.
Octopuses.
Octopi.
Octopuses.
We got to go behind the scenes and really interact with an octopus. We got to feed the octopus. We got to kind of just let it come up to us and come around our hand, and we got to feel it on us.
That thing is strong. It's terrifyingly strong.
Doing the research and then getting emotionally invested in it leads to a richer experience.
Of course.
And with Pete Docter, for instance, he talked with a lot of child psychiatrists.
Oh, for Inside Out.
Yeah, the research there.
Oh, it's bulletproof, yeah.
Yeah, it was to talk with them and see what their point of view was. And I'll say one other thing, and that is that as the film was coming near the end, it wasn't quite working.
We did do a lot of research. We talked to rabbis and priests and Buddhists and all sorts of folks just to learn what we could. But, you know, most people said, oh, the souls are ethereal, they're non-physical, they're invisible. Not very helpful in terms of hints for how to design things.
And if you like these kinds of videos, we do cover a lot of Pixar related news and facts, so if you're interested in seeing more, go ahead and subscribe for more.